"If you can read this contract, I'll double your salary," Marcus Steele said with a smirk, tossing the thick document onto the conference table where the cleaning lady was wiping down surfaces. "Before we begin, leave a comment telling us what city you're watching from. And at the end, don't forget to rate this story from 0 to 10. Enjoy the story." The contract landed with a heavy thud, scattering a few loose papers across the polished mahogany. Sophia Chen looked up from the table she'd been cleaning for the past 5 minutes, her expression carefully neutral. It was 11 p.m., and the Steel Capital Management conference room looked like a war zone. Empty coffee cups lined every available surface. Legal pads covered in frantic handwriting were scattered everywhere, and 5 exhausted attorneys sat slumped in their chairs, ties loosened, eyes bloodshot. Marcus Steele stood at the head of the table, looking somehow both exhausted and wired. His suit jacket hung on the back of his chair, his sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, and he had the particular manic energy of someone who'd been reviewing contracts for 14 straight hours and was starting to lose his grip on reality. "Well," he said, that smirk still playing at his lips, "I'm waiting. You've been cleaning that same spot for 3 minutes. Surely you can take a break to educate yourself." Sophia set down her cleaning cloth and looked at the document. 247 pages of dense legal text. The Tech Vista Industries acquisition agreement, according to the cover page. She'd seen a dozen contracts just like it over the past 8 months of cleaning this office. Watched these same attorneys hunched over similar documents, arguing about clauses and precedents and indemnification. "Your expectations of me are truly inspiring, Mr. Steele," she said, her voice perfectly level. "Next you'll ask if I can tie my own shoes." One of the junior attorneys snorted, then quickly covered it with a cough. Marcus's smirk widened. "So that's a no? You can't read a simple business contract?" "I didn't say that." "Then prove it. Sit down. Read. I'll triple your salary if you make it past page 1 without asking what indemnification means." Sophia looked at him for a long moment. She should walk away. Should push her cleaning cart to the next office and let these arrogant lawyers have their little joke. She'd learned over the past 3 years that engaging with people like Marcus Steele only brought trouble. But something in his casual dismissal, in the way he'd tossed that contract at her like she was barely capable of understanding written English, made something inside her snap. "Move your coffee cup," she said. Marcus blinked. "What?" "You heard me. If I'm going to sit down and read your contract, you need to move your coffee cup. That's a $3,000 table, and I'm the one who has to clean the water rings." For a second, the room was completely silent. Then Marcus slowly reached over and moved his cup to a coaster, his eyes never leaving her face. Sophia pulled out the chair next to his, sat down with perfect posture, and opened the contract to page 1. The senior attorney, a woman named Victoria Cross, who Sophia had learned to avoid, leaned forward. "This should be entertaining," she murmured to the man next to her. Sophia ignored her. She began to read. The language was dense, complex, full of the specialized terminology that made corporate law inaccessible to most people. Definitions section, recitals establishing the parties and their intentions, detailed representations and warranties. Sophia read steadily, her eyes moving across each line with practiced efficiency. Occasionally, she turned a page. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 20. Marcus had gone back to his own stack of papers, but Sophia could feel him watching her out of the corner of his eye. The other attorneys were pretending to work, but they were all sneaking glances her direction, waiting for her to give up, to admit she was in over her head, to prove them right. At page 40, Sophia paused, reached into her cleaning cart and pulled out a highlighter she used for marking supply reorder lists. She carefully highlighted a section in the middle of the page, then made a small note in the margin with a pen. Marcus noticed. "What are you doing?" "Reading," Sophia said without looking up. "You told me to read the contract." "You're making notes. Is that against the rules?" "You didn't specify I couldn't take notes." Victoria Cross sat up straighter. "What did you mark?" Sophia turned the contract around so they could see. Section 3.2b. It cites Delaware precedent Matthews versus Cordova Holdings to support the non-compete structure. "That's correct," Victoria said slowly. "What about it?" Matthews was overturned on appeal in 2019. The Delaware Supreme Court ruled the non-compete structure was overly broad and unenforceable, which means this clause, as written, won't hold up in court. The room went completely silent. The senior attorney fumbled for his laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard. 30 seconds of frantic typing. Then his face went pale. "She's right," he said quietly. "Matthews was overturned. How did you know that?" Sophia didn't answer. She went back to reading. Marcus slowly set down his pen. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with new intensity. The smirk was completely gone now, replaced by something else. Confusion, curiosity, maybe the first hint of respect. "Who are you?" he asked. "Someone who can read," Sophia replied, turning another page. "You should try it sometime instead of billing by the hour." Another junior attorney bit back a laugh. Victoria's face turned red. "Where did you learn legal terminology?" Marcus pressed. "That's not the kind of thing you pick up from general reading." Sophia looked up at him, her expression unreadable. "The same place you learn to underestimate people. Mr. Steele, life experience." She continued reading for another 20 minutes. Marcus watched her the entire time, no longer even pretending to review his own documents. There was something about the way she read, the way her eyes moved across the page with perfect comprehension, the way she occasionally paused to consider a particularly complex clause. This wasn't someone struggling through unfamiliar material. This was someone who understood exactly what she was looking at. At page 87, Sophia closed the contract and checked her watch. 11:47 p.m. "I'll need to finish this tomorrow night," she said, standing up. "Some of us have other floors to clean." She smoothed down her gray uniform, picked up her cleaning cloth, and started to turn away. "Wait," Marcus said. "That's it? You're just leaving?" "You said to read it." "I read 87 pages, but unless you're paying me overtime, my shift ends at 2 a.m. and I have 3 more floors to cover. But the contract will still be here tomorrow." Sophia picked up her highlighter and slipped it back into her cart. "By the way, Mr. Steele, you owe me triple salary now. That's $45 an hour. I'll expect the adjustment in next week's paycheck." She pushed her cart toward the door. In the doorway, she paused and looked back. "Oh, and Mr. Steele, you might want to have someone review Section 14. There's something off about the arbitration language, but I'll need to read the full clause to be sure. Just a thought." Then she was gone, leaving Marcus Steele staring after her with an expression of complete bewilderment. Victoria Cross was the first to break the silence. "What just happened?" "I have no idea," Marcus admitted. He looked down at the contract, at the highlighted section on page 40, at the precise note in the margin. The handwriting was clean, professional, like someone who'd spent years annotating legal documents. The senior attorney cleared his throat. "Marcus, she caught a precedent that none of us caught. A fairly obscure one. That's not normal." "No," Marcus agreed slowly. "It's not." He picked up the contract and flipped to Section 14. The arbitration clause. It looked standard at first glance, the kind of boilerplate language that appeared in hundreds of merger agreements. But now that Sophia had mentioned it, now that she'd planted that seed of doubt, something did seem off. The language was just slightly more complex than necessary. Cross-references to other sections that he'd need to trace to fully understand. Someone pull her employment file, Marcus said. His assistant, who'd been quietly taking notes in the corner, nodded and pulled out her phone. A few minutes of typing, then she looked up. Sophia Chen, night cleaning staff hired 8 months ago through Clean Pro Services. $15 an hour, 5 shifts a week, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Emergency contact, none. Previous employment, various cleaning companies in the New York area. High. School diploma on file. No college education listed. No college education, Marcus repeated. And she knows Delaware Supreme Court precedent from 2019. Maybe she's just smart, the junior attorney offered. Self-taught. Some people read legal documents for fun. Nobody reads merger contracts for fun, Victoria said flatly. There's something else going on here. Marcus stood up, walked to the window, and looked out over the glittering Manhattan skyline. Somewhere out there, Sophia Chen was pushing a cleaning cart through another floor of his building, probably reviewing supply closets and emptying trash cans. A woman who read legal contracts with perfect comprehension, who caught precedents that 6 experienced attorneys had missed, who spoke with the precise terminology of someone who'd spent years in corporate law. Who are you really, Sophia Chen? He turned back to his assistant. I want to know everything about her. Previous addresses, work history, anything you can find. It's almost midnight, Marcus. Then start first thing in the morning. There's a story here. People don't just randomly know case law. After his team finally left around 1 a.m., Marcus sat alone in the conference room, unable to shake the image of Sophia sitting in that chair, reading his contract with the ease of a seasoned attorney. He opened his laptop and typed Sophia Chen lawyer into the search bar. Thousands of results, none of them obviously matching. He tried Sophia Chen Columbia Law. Nothing. Sophia Chen New York attorney. Still nothing useful. He looked at the contract again, at her highlighted section, at her note in the margin. The handwriting was confident, precise, the kind of handwriting that came from years of practice. His phone buzzed, a text from his assistant. Marcus, it's 1:30 a.m. Why am I getting requests for employee background checks? He typed back, the cleaning woman, Sophia Chen. There's something off about her. Off how? That's what I need you to find out. Marcus closed his laptop and rubbed his eyes. He was exhausted, had been working non-stop on the Tech Vista deal for weeks, and now here he was, obsessing over a cleaning lady who could read legal contracts. It was absurd, but he couldn't let it go. Because somewhere deep in his gut, Marcus Steele knew that Sophia Chen wasn't just a cleaning lady. She was something more, something hidden, and he was going to find out what. He wrote a note on a post-it and stuck it to the contract. Please finish reading. MS. Then he left the contract on the table along with a fresh highlighter and went home. All night he dreamed of brown eyes that saw too much and a voice that spoke in perfect legal terminology, and a woman who cleaned his floors while understanding the complexities of Delaware corporate law. By morning, Marcus Steele was obsessed, and Sophia Chen, pushing her cleaning cart through a medical office building across town, was wondering if she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life, because she'd let him see her. Just for a moment, she'd let the mask slip. And now there would be questions. Questions she'd spent 3 years avoiding. Questions that led to a past she'd tried desperately to bury. She looked at her reflection in a bathroom mirror. Same gray uniform, same tired eyes, same invisible woman who cleaned up after more successful people. Except now, one of those successful people knew she could read. And for someone trying to disappear, being seen was the most dangerous thing in the world. The next evening, Sophia returned to the Steel Capitol building at her usual time. 6 p.m., just as the day shift employees were streaming out, briefcases in hand, eager to escape to their real lives. She clocked in, grabbed her cart from the supply room, and took the elevator to the 35th floor. The conference room was empty except for a single item on the table, the Tech Vista contract, right where she'd left it. Next to it sat a fresh highlighter and a post-it note in bold handwriting. "Please finish reading, MS." Sophia stood in the doorway, her hand still on her cleaning cart. She should walk away, should forget the whole thing ever happened. Go back to being invisible, just another cleaning lady in a city full of them. That was safer. That was smart. But her eyes kept drifting to that contract. 247 pages of complex legal language, and she'd only made it through 87. And that arbitration clause in Section 14, the one that had nagged at her even as she'd cleaned 3 more floors last night, the one that felt wrong somehow. She looked over her shoulder. The hallway was empty. The executive offices were dark. Marcus Steele's corner office showed no light beneath the door. Sophia pulled out a chair and sat down. She opened the contract to page 88 and began to read. An hour passed, then 2. Sophia worked methodically, reading every word, tracking every cross-reference, building a mental map of the entire agreement. It was a massive deal, $500 million for the acquisition of Tech Vista Industries, a tech company specializing in data security solutions. On the surface, everything looked standard. Purchase price, payment terms, representations and warranties, conditions precedent. But the more she read, the more that nagging feeling grew stronger. At page 198, she found the first piece. Section 14, 7C. In the event that Party B fails to achieve the revenue targets as defined in Appendix J, subsection 4, within the performance period, the matter shall be submitted to binding arbitration administered by Arbiter Solutions, LLC, in accordance with its commercial arbitration rules. Sophia grabbed a legal pad from the sideboard and wrote down the section number. Then she flipped to Appendix J, subsection 4. The revenue targets were aggressive, 40% growth in year 1, 60% in year 2. She pulled out her phone and did a quick search on Tech Vista's market sector. The entire data security industry was only projected to grow 25% annually. These targets were mathematically impossible unless Tech Vista somehow captured massive market share from established competitors. She made a note. Revenue targets unrealistic, check industry benchmarks. Then she searched for other mentions of Arbiter Solutions LLC, found it again on page 203 in a section about dispute resolution, and again on page 227 in a clause about asset transfers in the event of arbitration. Sophia read that clause 3 times, her heart beginning to beat faster. Should arbitration be initiated pursuant to Section 14.7c? And should the arbitrator determine that Party A has failed to satisfy the performance obligations, Party A shall transfer 60% of the acquired assets to the designated trust account maintained by Arbiter Solutions LLC, pending final resolution. 60% of the acquired assets. That would be $300 million worth of Tech Vista's value transferred to a trust account controlled by the arbitration firm, pending final resolution, which could take years. Sophia grabbed her phone and searched Arbiter Solutions LLC. The company website looked professional. Sleek design, testimonials from satisfied clients, a list of services. But when she dug deeper, looking for registration information, business filings, names of principals, she found almost nothing. The company was registered in the Cayman Islands. No officers listed, no physical address beyond a P.O. box. She went back further, searching corporate databases she still had access to from her law school alumni account. Arbiter Solutions LLC had been dissolved and reformed 3 times in the past 2 years, each time under slightly different beneficial ownership structures. That wasn't an arbitration firm, that was a shell company. a vehicle for moving money offshore where it couldn't be traced or recovered. Sophia's hands were shaking now. She grabbed the highlighter and marked all 3 sections, then pulled out fresh pages from the legal pad. She drew a flowchart showing exactly how the scheme worked. Step 1. Tech Vista fails to meet impossible revenue targets in year 2. Step 2. Arbiter Solutions LLC initiates binding arbitration. Step 3. The arbitrator, undoubtedly controlled by the same people who own Arbiter Solutions, rules that Steel Capital failed to meet its obligations. Step 4. $300 million in assets get transferred to a Cayman Islands trust account. Step 5. The money disappears. The arbitration drags on for years. And by the time anyone figures out what happened, the shell company has been dissolved and reformed under a new name. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and it would destroy Steel Capital. Sophia checked her watch, 10:47 p.m. She didn't know if Marcus was still in the building, but this couldn't wait until tomorrow. She gathered her highlighted pages, her flowchart, and her notes, and walked to his office. The door was closed, but light showed beneath it. She knocked. "Come in," came his voice. Sophia opened the door. Marcus sat at his desk, still in his suit but with his tie loosened, reading something on his computer screen. He looked up when she entered, and surprise flashed across his face. "Sophia, I didn't expect you to actually finish it." "We need to talk," she said. "Don't sign anything, don't finalize this deal, not until you see what I found." She spread her papers across his desk, the highlighted contract sections, the flowchart, her notes about Arbiter Solutions LLC. Section 14.7c, she began, slipping into the precise language of legal analysis without even thinking about it. It's a poison pill clause disguised as standard arbitration language. They've split the mechanism across 3 separate sections so it's not obvious at first glance, but when you map it out, the pattern is clear. She walked him through it step by step: the impossible revenue targets, the shell company arbitration firm, the asset transfer clause, the Cayman Islands registration, the pattern of dissolution and reformation. Marcus listened in silence, his expression growing darker with each detail. When she finished, he sat back in his chair and ran a hand through his hair. "Show me the revenue targets again," he said quietly. Sophia flipped to Appendix J. Marcus pulled up market projections on his computer, did some quick calculations, and his face went pale. "These are impossible," he said. "Even if we captured 50% of the market, which would never happen, we couldn't hit 60% growth in year 2. Which means the arbitration clause would automatically trigger," Sophia confirmed. "And once it does, you'd lose $300 million before you even realized what was happening." Marcus stood up and walked to the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city. Sophia watched him process it. Watched the moment he understood that 6 experienced attorneys, including his general counsel, had reviewed this contract multiple times and missed a $40 million fraud. He turned back to her. "How did you catch this?" "I read carefully." "That's not an answer. Nobody reads this carefully. Nobody maps out cross-references across 200 pages just for fun. Who are you really, Sophia?" She met his eyes. "Someone who reads contracts. That's all you need to know." "The hell it is." Marcus walked back to his desk and picked up her flowchart. "This is professional-level legal analysis. You cite case law. You understand complex corporate structures. You identified a fraud scheme that 6 attorneys missed. So I'll ask again. Who are you?" "A cleaning lady who saved you $40 million, Sophia said evenly. "Does it matter where I learned to read?" "Yes, it does. Because I need to know if I can trust this analysis." "Then verify it," Call your lawyers, have them check my work. I'll be here tomorrow night if you have questions. She turned to leave. Marcus called after her. Wait. If you're right, and I think you are, you just saved this company from bankruptcy. That deserves more than just having your questions answered tomorrow. I don't need anything. Yes, you do. Everyone needs something. He opened his desk drawer and pulled out his checkbook. $50,000 as a consultant fee for identifying a critical flaw in the agreement. Sophia looked at the check he was writing, then back at his face. You don't even know if I'm right yet. I know. I've been doing this long enough to recognize when something is off. You found it. You're getting paid for it. He held out the check. $50,000. More money than she'd seen since her father's medical bills had drained her savings to zero. Money that could pay off 6 months of debt, give her breathing room, maybe even let her think about something other than survival. But she didn't take it. Not yet. $75,000, she said, plus 0.5% equity in the Tech Vista deal if it closes successfully after renegotiation. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. Then he laughed, a genuine sound of surprise and admiration. You've got nerve. I'll give you that. I just saved you from losing $300 million. I think 0.5% equity is more than fair, especially since you'll need me to help renegotiate the contract once you confront the other side about the fraud. He studied her for a long moment. Then he ripped up the first check and wrote a new one. Deal. $75,000 now plus equity if we close. But I want you available as a consultant for the renegotiation. $500 an hour. $300. $400, and you provide all the coffee I can drink. Deal. He held out the check in his hand. Do we have an agreement, Ms. Chen? Sophia shook his hand. His grip was firm, warm. We have an agreement, Mr. Steele. I'll need it in writing, of course. Of course. I'll have the consultant agreement drafted tomorrow. He paused. One more thing. Where did you study law? I didn't say I studied law. You didn't have to. Nobody talks like you just talked. Nobody does the kind of analysis you just did without a JD. So where? Harvard, Yale, Columbia? Sophia took the check and folded it carefully. Does it really matter? You're getting excellent legal analysis for a fraction of what you pay your current team. Isn't that enough? No. Because I'm trusting you with the biggest deal of my career, I need to know who I'm trusting. Then I guess some mysteries stay mysterious, Mr. Steele. She walked to the door, then paused. But if it helps you sleep at night, I'll tell you this much. I know what I'm doing. Your lawyers missed the fraud. I caught it. That should tell you everything you need to know about whose judgment you should trust. She left, closing the door softly behind her. Marcus stood in his office, holding the consultant agreement he'd need to have drafted, staring at the flowchart she'd created. The precision of it, the thoroughness, the expertise that showed in every line. He picked up his phone and called his assistant, not caring that it was almost 11 p.m. I need you to find someone, Sophia Chen. I want to know everything. Where she went to school, where she worked before cleaning jobs, why she's working as a cleaner when she clearly has legal training. Everything. Marcus, it's 11 o'clock at night. Then start first thing tomorrow morning. This is priority 1. He hung up and returned to his computer, pulled up the contract sections Sophia had identified, read them again carefully this time, following her logic. And with each line, his respect for her grew. And his curiosity. And something else he didn't want to name yet. By midnight, his assistant had sent a preliminary report. Marcus opened it with eager anticipation. Sophia Chen, age 32, Columbia Law School, JD, graduated 2016, top 10% of class. Employed at Morrison & Klein LLP, Associate Position, Corporate Law Department, 2016-2018. Employment terminated April 2018. Reason listed as professional misconduct. No subsequent legal employment found. Various cleaning positions with multiple agencies, 2019 to present. Father, Robert Chen, deceased 6 months ago, cancer. No other family listed. Marcus read it 3 times. Columbia Law, Morrison & Klein, one of the most prestigious firms in New York, then fired for professional misconduct and a complete career collapse. He searched Sophia Chen Morrison Klein online. Found a few references in old case filings where she'd been listed as junior counsel. Nothing about why she was fired. Nothing about what had happened. He called a contact at Morrison & Klein, someone he'd done business with for years. David, it's Marcus Steele. I need information about a former associate of yours, Sophia Chen. Worked there 2016 to 2018. There was a long pause. Marcus, I can't discuss personnel matters. I'm not asking for official records. I'm asking you, friend to friend, what happened to her? Why do you want to know? Because she just saved my company from a $40 million fraud, and I need to know if I can trust her. Another pause. Look, that whole situation was complicated. There were accusations, counter-accusations. The firm took it very seriously. What kind of accusations? I really can't say. But Marcus, if I were you, I'd be very careful about trusting Sophia Chen. She left under a cloud. That's all I can tell you. The call ended. Marcus sat in his office, more confused than ever. Professional misconduct. Left under a cloud. But also brilliant, ethical enough to spot a fraud and report it, and clearly desperate enough to be working as a cleaning lady despite having a Columbia degree. What happened to you, Sophia Chen? And why are you hiding? The next morning, Marcus called an emergency meeting. His entire legal team assembled in the large conference room. Victoria Cross, his general counsel, and 5 other attorneys who'd worked on the Tech Vista deal. We have a problem, Marcus began. A significant one that somehow escaped everyone's attention. He put Sophia's flowchart up on the screen, walked them through Section 14.7c, the impossible revenue targets, the shell company arbitration firm, the asset transfer mechanism. Victoria Cross went red. This is absurd. We reviewed this contract 6 times. There's no fraud clause. Then explain Arbiter Solutions LLC, Marcus said. Explain why they're registered in the Cayman Islands with no listed officers. Explain why they've been dissolved and reformed 3 times in 2 years. The senior partner pulled out his laptop and started searching. His face gradually drained of color. He's right. Arbiter Solutions is a shell company, and these revenue targets, they're impossible based on current market conditions. Who found this? Victoria demanded. Which attorney caught it? Not an attorney, Marcus said quietly. A consultant I brought in to do a fresh review. A consultant? From which firm? Marcus hesitated, then decided honesty was better than the alternative. Sophia Chen, my night cleaning staff. The room erupted. Victoria stood up, her voice rising. You're telling me that a cleaning woman found something that 6 experienced attorneys missed? That's impossible. This is amateur analysis from someone who cleans toilets. I've practiced law for 20 years, Mr. Steele. This clause is standard arbitration language. Is it? Marcus gestured to the screen. Then explain the flow chart. Explain how the 3 sections connect. Show me where I'm wrong. Victoria grabbed the contract and started reading, her face getting redder with each paragraph. The other attorneys huddled around, checking, verifying, pulling up corporate registries. She's right, the junior associate finally said, his voice quiet. This is a poison pill clause. We missed it. Oh God, we missed it. Victoria slammed the contract down on the table. This is absurd. Who is this woman? How does a cleaning lady know corporate law? That's not the issue right now, Marcus said, his voice hard. The issue is that we almost signed an agreement that would have bankrupted this company. So here's what's going to happen. Someone is going to verify every single detail of Ms. Chen's analysis. Every precedent she cited, every corporate structure she identified, every calculation she made. And then we're going to figure out how to renegotiate this deal without the other side knowing we caught their fraud. He pointed to Victoria. You're going to lead that effort. I want a full report by end of business tomorrow. Victoria looked like she wanted to argue, but the evidence was too clear. She nodded stiffly and gathered the materials. As the team filed out, Marcus called after them. And one more thing. Ms. Chen is now a paid consultant on this deal. You'll treat her with the same respect you'd give any attorney from a top firm, because right now she's proven she's better than all of you combined. After they left, Marcus pulled out his phone, found Sophia's employee file in the emergency contact section, none listed. He didn't have her cell number, didn't have any way to reach her except to wait until tonight when she came in for her cleaning shift. He looked at the flowchart again, the precision of it, the expertise, the care she'd taken to document everything, to make it impossible for him to ignore or dismiss. She'd saved his company, and in doing so she'd revealed that she was far more than what she appeared to be. Tonight, Marcus decided he was going to get answers. One way or another, he was going to find out who Sophia Chen really was, and why someone with a Columbia law degree was cleaning his floors at night. Because now he wasn't just curious, he was invested. And Marcus Steele always finished what he started. 1 week later, Sophia sat in the Steele Capital negotiation room, surrounded by men in $1,000 suits. She wore simple black pants and a white blouse from Macy's, her hair pulled back in a professional bun. The formal consultant agreement sat in her bag, signed and notarized. $400 an hour. She still couldn't quite believe it. Across the table sat 3 attorneys from Whitmore & Associates, representing the Tech Vista sellers. They'd arrived expecting a standard contract finalization meeting. Instead, they found Marcus Steele with a legal consultant they'd never heard of. "Gentlemen," Marcus began, his voice perfectly cordial. "Before we proceed, my team has identified some concerns with Section 14.7c that we'd like to address." The lead attorney, a silver-haired man named Richard Whitmore, smiled smoothly. "Section 14.7c is standard arbitration language, Mr. Steele. We've used similar provisions in dozens of transactions." "Have you?" Sophia spoke for the first time, her voice calm and precise. "Because I found 3 key differences between this clause and standard arbitration provisions. Would you like me to walk you through them?" Whitmore glanced at her dismissively. "And you are?" "Sophia Chen, legal consultant." She opened her folder and pulled out a marked-up copy of the contract. "First difference. The revenue targets in Appendix J, subsection 4, are mathematically impossible based on current market conditions. The data security sector is projected to grow at 25% annually. Your targets require 60% growth in year 2. That's not ambitious, that's designed to fail." Whitmore's smile tightened. "Market projections are conservative. Exceptional companies exceed them." "Second difference," Sophia continued as if he hadn't spoken. "Arbiter Solutions LLC, your designated arbitration firm, is registered in the Cayman Islands with no listed officers, no physical address beyond a P.O. box, and has been dissolved and reformed 3 times in 2 years under different beneficial ownership structures. That's not an arbitration firm. That's a shell company." The room went very quiet. Whitmore's colleagues exchanged glances. "Third difference," Sophia said, pulling out a document. Section 14.7c cross-references with clauses on pages 203 and 227, creating a mechanism where 60% of acquired assets would be transferred to Arbiter Solutions' trust account pending arbitration. That's $300 million that would disappear into an offshore account controlled by an entity that doesn't legally exist in any meaningful way. She slid 3 case files across the table. Barton v. Peninsula Tech, 2019, Shell Company fraud using arbitration clauses, $87 million judgment for the plaintiff. In R.E., Meridian Acquisition 2020. Similar scheme, similar outcome. Delaware Chancery Court Case 2018-0447, which established that arbitration clauses involving entities with patterns of dissolution and reformation constitute prima facie evidence of fraudulent intent. Sophia leaned back in her chair. So no, Mr. Whitmore, this is not standard arbitration language. This is a sophisticated fraud mechanism, and we're not signing anything until Section 14.7c is completely removed from the agreement. The silence stretched for 10 full seconds. Whitmore's face had gone from cordial to stone cold. One of his junior attorneys was frantically typing on a laptop, presumably verifying the cases Sophia had cited. These are serious accusations, Whitmore said carefully. These are documented facts, Marcus replied, backed by case law and corporate filings. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to remove Section 14.7c entirely, along with all cross-referenced clauses. You're going to provide standard arbitration language from JAMS or AAA. And you're going to do it by end of business tomorrow, or this deal is dead and I'll make sure every judge in Delaware knows about Arbiter Solutions LLC and its 3 beneficial ownership changes. Whitmore looked at Sophia with undisguised hostility. Where did you go to law school, Ms. Chen? Why? Sophia smiled. Are you hiring? Marcus bit back a laugh. Whitmore didn't smile. We'll need to consult with our clients, Whitmore said stiffly. This is a significant change to the agreement structure. You have until tomorrow at 5 p.m., Marcus stood. After that, we walk. Ms. Chen, do you have anything to add? Just one thing, Sophia gathered her papers. Barton v. Peninsula Tech also established that attorneys who knowingly include fraudulent arbitration clauses can be subject to sanctions and malpractice claims. You might want to mention that to your clients when you explain why Section 14.7c needs to be removed. She walked out, Marcus right behind her. In the hallway, once the conference room door closed, Marcus let out a breath. That was incredible, he said. You destroyed them. I stated facts. They destroyed themselves. Sophia checked her watch. I need to get back to work. My cleaning shift starts in 2 hours. You're still cleaning? The consultant fee doesn't come close to covering my monthly expenses, Mr. Steele. I have bills. Marcus. Call me Marcus. He walked beside her toward the elevator. And speaking of bills, there's something I need to know. I did some research. Columbia Law, Morrison and Klein. Then fired in 2018. What happened? Sophia stopped walking. That's not relevant to the Tech Vista deal. No, but it's relevant to whether I can trust you long term. Sophia, you just saved my company $40 million. Victoria is already spreading rumors that you have a suspicious past. If we're going to keep working together, I need to know what I'm dealing with. She studied him for a long moment, then sighed. Is your office private? Completely. Then let's talk there. You deserve the truth. 10 minutes later, Sophia sat in Marcus's office, a cup of coffee in her hands that she hadn't touched. Marcus sat across from her, waiting. Morrison and Klein was everything I'd worked for, she began. Columbia wasn't cheap. I had student loans, worked 3 jobs through law school, graduated top 10% of my class. Morrison offered me an associate position in corporate law. $85,000 a year. It felt like winning the lottery. What happened? My supervising partner was Richard Carlyle, senior partner, 25 years with the firm, brilliant lawyer, also corrupt. I was assigned to help him with a major acquisition case, Berkeley Industries acquiring a competitor. During discovery, I found emails showing that Berkeley had systematically falsified their environmental compliance records, buried toxic waste reports, bribed inspectors, the whole thing. Evidence that would have killed the deal and possibly sent executives to prison. She took a breath. I brought it to Carlyle. He told me to lose the emails. Said they weren't relevant to the acquisition. I insisted they were material. He told me if I knew what was good for my career, I'd forget I ever saw them. You reported him, Marcus said quietly. I reported him to the ethics committee, provided copies of everything. 3 days later, I was called into a meeting with the managing partners. They said I'd breached client confidentiality by making copies without authorization, that I'd violated attorney-client privilege, that my actions constituted serious professional misconduct. I was fired immediately. They spread the word through every major firm in New York that I was unstable, vindictive, had fabricated accusations against a respected partner. Sophia's voice remained steady, but Marcus could see the pain in her eyes. I couldn't get hired anywhere, not even small firms. Carlyle had too many connections. Everyone believed his version, that I was a disgruntled associate who'd tried to frame him when I didn't make partner track fast enough. What happened to Carlyle? Nothing. He retired last year with full pension and a celebration dinner. The environmental violations at Berkeley Industries came out 2 years later through a whistleblower at the EPA. By then, the statute of limitations had passed. No one went to prison. The firm paid a fine. Everyone moved on. Except you. Except me. Sophia finally took a sip of her coffee. 2 months after I was fired, my father was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He needed experimental treatment. Insurance wouldn't cover it. The treatment cost $200,000. I used every penny of my savings, maxed out credit cards, took out personal loans. He lived 18 months longer than the doctors predicted. He died 6 months ago. I'm sorry, Marcus said and meant it. I'm still paying off the medical debt, $87,000 remaining. That's why I clean floors, Marcus. It's not because I'm not smart enough or qualified enough to do something else. It's because cleaning jobs pay cash weekly and don't check references. When you're blacklisted from your profession and drowning in debt, dignity becomes a luxury you can't afford. The office was silent for a long moment. Marcus looked at this woman sitting across from him, who'd given up everything to do the right thing, who'd sacrificed her career for integrity, who'd lost her father and her future, and still managed to maintain her dignity. You gave up everything, he said quietly. I did what was right. The cost doesn't change that. Most people wouldn't have reported it. They would have looked the other way, kept their jobs, built their careers. Then most people are cowards, Sophia said simply. I couldn't live with myself if I'd helped hide that evidence. People could have been hurt by those toxic waste sites. Children could have been poisoned. My career isn't worth that. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, hands in his pockets. He thought about his own choices over the years, the corners he'd cut, the times he'd stayed silent when he should have spoken up, the deals he'd made that benefited him while hurting others. You're a better person than I am, he said. I'm an unemployed lawyer who cleans bathrooms, Sophia replied. I'm not sure that makes me better than anyone. You're the most ethical person I've ever met. You sacrificed everything for integrity. That's not nothing, Sophia, that's everything. He turned back to face her. How much do you owe? Total? Why? Just tell me. $87,000 in medical debt, $15,000 in credit card debt from living expenses after I was fired. So 102,000 total. Why does that matter? Because you're brilliant. You have more integrity than anyone I've ever worked with. And you're wasting your talent cleaning floors because one corrupt partner destroyed your reputation. That's not justice. That's not right. Life isn't fair, Marcus. I learned that the hard way. No, but people can be. He walked back to his desk and pulled out his checkbook. I'm going to pay off your debt. Absolutely not. Sophia, no. She stood up. I appreciate the gesture, truly. But I don't need charity. I don't need to be rescued. I need to rebuild my life on my own terms, with my own work, earning my own way. That's the only way it means anything. This isn't charity. It's compensation for the work you've done. You already paid me $75,000. That's more than fair. That was for one contract review. You've saved this company from bankruptcy. You've proven you're a better legal mind than anyone on my current team. You deserve... Marcus, stop. She held up a hand. I know you mean well, but I've spent 3 years paying off my father's debts penny by penny. That debt represents the last 18 months of his life, the only thing of value I have left from him. I'm not letting someone else pay it off, no matter how generous the offer. He looked at her, this stubborn, brilliant, infuriating woman, and felt something shift in his chest. Respect, yes. Admiration, absolutely, but something else. Something that made him want to fight for her, protect her, give her back everything she'd lost. Then let me help another way, he said. Not charity, a job. Come work for Steel Capital as general counsel. You have a general counsel, Victoria Cross. Victoria missed a $40 million fraud. You caught it. I'm making a change. You can't fire someone just to hire me, Marcus. That's not ethical. I'm not firing her for you. I'm firing her for incompetence. The fact that you'd be perfect for the position is just fortunate timing. He leaned against his desk. $200,000 a year. Full benefits. Health insurance that actually covers things. Your own office. A team that reports to you. And most importantly, a chance to practice law again. Real law. Not cleaning floors while pretending you're not a lawyer. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. He could see the war in her eyes. The desperate desire to say yes, to reclaim her career, to be a lawyer again. And the fear that it would all collapse, that she'd be hurt again. That hope was too dangerous. I need to think about it, she said finally. Take your time. The offer stands regardless of what happens with Tech Vista. She nodded and headed toward the door, then paused. Marcus, thank you. For listening, for believing me. It's been a long time since anyone did that. I should be thanking you. You told the truth when it cost you everything. That takes more courage than I've ever had. After she left, Marcus sat alone in his office, thinking about courage and integrity and the woman who cleaned his floors while knowing more about corporate law than most senior partners. He picked up his phone and made a call. James Morrison, please. Tell him it's Marcus Steele. Yes, I'll hold. A minute later. Marcus, what can I do for you? I need information about one of your former associates, Sophia Chen. What really happened in 2018? There was a pause. That's complicated. Uncomplicated. I'm considering hiring her. I need to know if the professional misconduct claims are legitimate. James sighed. Off the record? Completely off the record? Completely. Sophia Chen is one of the most brilliant associates we ever had. What happened to her was a travesty. Richard Carlisle was burying evidence in the Berkeley case. Sophia reported it. Carlisle had connections throughout the firm and the New York legal community. He made her the problem instead of admitting his own misconduct. The managing partners believed him because he brought in $20 million a year in billings. Sophia brought in nothing. So they sacrificed her to protect the revenue stream. Was she right about the buried evidence? Yes. Everything came out later through other channels, but by then her career was destroyed and Carlyle had retired. We did nothing to clear her name. I wasn't here at the time. I was heading our London office. When I came back and learned what had happened, I tried to find her, but she disappeared. If you're thinking of hiring her, Marcus, do it. She's brilliant and ethical. The only reason she's not a senior partner somewhere is that she made the mistake of expecting integrity from people who had none. Marcus hung up, more certain than ever. Sophia Chen deserved better, and he was going to make sure she got it. 3 days later, Sophia attended another meeting with the Tech Vista sellers. They'd removed Section 14.7c, replaced it with standard jams arbitration, and revised the revenue targets to something actually achievable. The deal was back on track. "Excellent work, Ms. Chen," Whitmore said, his voice cold but professional. "Your analysis was thorough." "Just doing my job," Sophia replied. After the meeting, as everyone filed out, Whitmore stopped her. "Where did you say you went to law school?" "Columbia. I lectured there in 2015, M&A strategy. I don't remember you." "I was busy studying instead of networking. Fatal career mistake, I've learned." Whitmore studied her. "Morrison and Klein, wasn't it? You worked there for a time." "I did." "I heard about what happened. Richard Carlyle, the Berkeley case." He paused. "For what it's worth, I never believed his version. Richard was many things, but honest wasn't one of them." "You did the right thing, Ms. Chen. The fact that it cost you your career doesn't make it less right." Sophia blinked, surprised. "Thank you. If you're ever looking for a position, Whitmore and Associates could use someone with your eye for detail. And your integrity." He handed her his card. "Think about it." He left. Sophia stood in the hallway holding the card, feeling the strangest sensation. Hope. Actual, genuine hope that maybe her career wasn't dead. Maybe she could come back from this. Marcus found her there 5 minutes later, still staring at the card. "Good meeting," he said. "We're signing next week." "That's great. Whitmore offered you a job, didn't he? I saw him give you his card." "He did? Are you going to take it?" "I don't know." Sophia looked up at him. 3 days ago I was cleaning floors. Today I have 2 job offers from major firms. It feels like someone else's life. It's your life, Sophia. The one you earned. The one you deserve. He paused. "But I hope you'll consider Steel Capital. Not just because I need a general counsel, but because I want to work with you. Really work with you, build something together." Before she could answer, Victoria Cross appeared at the end of the hallway, her face tight with anger. "Mr. Steele, I need to speak with you privately." Marcus sighed. "Excuse me." He followed Victoria into an empty conference room. She closed the door and turned on him. "You're going to fire me, aren't you? For her. This isn't about Sophia. Like hell it isn't. She finds one problem in one contract, and suddenly she's a consultant. She's at partner-level meetings. Everyone's talking about how brilliant she is, how she saved the company. Meanwhile, I've worked here for 8 years, handled hundreds of deals, and one mistake and I'm done." "One mistake?" Marcus's voice was dangerously quiet. "Victoria, that one mistake would have cost this company $300 million. Would have bankrupted us. Destroyed everything we've built. I had 5 other attorneys review that contract. We all missed it. It was deliberately obscured across multiple sections. Anyone would have missed it. Sophia didn't miss it. Because she was thorough. Because she actually cared about protecting the company instead of just billing hours and collecting a salary." Victoria's face flushed red. "So that's it? You're firing me for someone who cleans toilets?" "I'm firing you because you've become complacent. Because you missed a critical fraud that should have been obvious. And because instead of acknowledging your mistake and learning from it, you're standing here trying to make this about Sophia instead of your own failure. This is illegal, wrongful termination. You're an at-will employee, Victoria. I can terminate you for any reason or no reason, but if you want a reason, here it is. You failed to provide adequate legal counsel, nearly destroyed the company through negligence, and spent the past week spreading rumors about Sophia instead of improving your own performance. Pack your office. HR will have your severance package ready by end of business today. Victoria's mouth opened and closed. Then she turned and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Marcus stood alone in the conference room, rubbing his temples. He'd just fired his general counsel. Made an enemy of someone who knew too much about his business, but it was the right call. He knew it was. His phone buzzed, a text from his assistant. Sophia Chen is in the lobby, says she needs to talk to you, says it's important. Marcus headed downstairs immediately. Found Sophia standing near the reception desk, still in her work clothes, looking uncertain. "What's wrong?" he asked. "I need to tell you something. Before you make any final decisions about hiring me, you need to know the whole truth." "What truth?" She looked around at the busy lobby, people coming and going. Not here, somewhere private. They went to a coffee shop 2 blocks away, sat in a back corner booth. Sophia ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. "Victoria's going to come after me," she said. "She's going to dig into my past, find out about Morrison and Klein, use it against me. She's going to make my firing sound like I was corrupt instead of Carlyle. And some people will believe her because that's the version Morrison put out there. Let her try. I know the truth. But your board doesn't. Your investors don't. If Victoria makes enough noise, if she gets the right people asking questions, it could hurt the company. Hurt you. I don't want that." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying maybe I should turn down the job offer. Take Whitmore's offer instead. Keep some distance from Steel Capital so if Victoria does try to create problems, it doesn't affect you." Marcus reached across the table and took her hand. The gesture surprised both of them. Her hand was small, warm, fit perfectly in his. "Sophia, I don't care what Victoria says. I don't care what anyone says. I've seen who you are. I've seen your work, your integrity, your courage. That's what matters, not rumors, not lies. You." She looked down at their joined hands. "Why are you doing this? Why do you care so much?" "Because you remind me of someone." "Who?" "My father." Marcus hadn't talked about his father in years. Never mentioned him to employees, but something about Sophia made the words come easier. "He was a janitor. Worked 3 jobs. Died of a heart attack when I was 16. He was the most honest man I ever knew. He cleaned floors with the same dignity you do, same pride, same refusal to be ashamed of honest work. I didn't know. I spent my whole life running from that, ashamed of where I came from. Built this company to prove I was better than just a janitor's son, but you know what? My father was better than I'll ever be, because he did the right thing even when it was hard. Just like you did with Carlyle. You're the person I wish I had the courage to be." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. "Marcus. So yes, I care. And yes, I want you at Steel Capital. Not despite your past, but because of it. Because someone with your integrity is exactly what this company needs. What I need." She squeezed his hand. "I'm still paying off my father's debts. I'm still figuring out who I am without my career defining me. I'm a mess, Marcus. Then we'll figure it out together. What do you say? Will you be my general counsel?" Before she could answer, a voice interrupted them. "Sophia Chen? Is that really you?" They both looked up. A man in an expensive suit stood beside their table. Early 40s, handsome, confident smile. He looked vaguely familiar to Marcus, but he couldn't place him. Sophia's face went pale. James Morrison, the man said, extending his hand to Marcus. Senior partner at Morrison & Klein. And you must be Marcus Steele. I've read about the Tech Vista deal. Impressive work avoiding that arbitration trap. He turned back to Sophia. I heard through the grapevine that you were involved in catching that fraud. Doesn't surprise me at all. You were always the smartest person in any room. James, Listen, I know we haven't talked since you left the firm, but I was abroad when that whole thing happened with Carlyle. I didn't know about it until I came back, and by then you were gone. I tried to find you, but you disappeared. I had reasons. I'm sure you did. But I want you to know I never believed Carlyle's version. I know what kind of man he was. And I know what kind of lawyer you are. James pulled out his card. Morrison & Klein could use someone like you again. We've cleaned house since that incident. New management, new ethics policies. I'd like to bring you back, Sophia. $250,000 starting salary, partner track, full support from senior management. Sophia took the card automatically, too shocked to respond. James smiled at Marcus. Competition for top talent, Mr. Steele, you understand. He touched Sophia's shoulder. Think about it. Call me. Let's have dinner and talk properly. He left. Marcus and Sophia sat in silence. That's James Morrison, Marcus said slowly. One of the top lawyers in New York. I know. He just offered you $250,000 and a partner track. I know. Are you going to take it? Sophia looked at the card in her hand, then at Marcus. I don't know. This morning I had a job cleaning floors. Now I have 3 offers to practice law again. It's overwhelming. What does your gut tell you? My gut tells me to be careful. That every time I've trusted someone in corporate law, I've gotten burned. But my gut also tells me... She trailed off. Tells you what? That you're different. That this could be different. That maybe I deserve a second chance. Marcus squeezed her hand again. You do. And for what it's worth, I hope you'll take that second chance with me. Let me think about it. Give me a week. Take all the time you need. But as they left the coffee shop, as Marcus watched Sophia walk away with James Morrison's card in her pocket, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. Fear that he'd lose her, that she'd take one of those other offers and walk out of his life, that he'd lose the one person who'd made him feel something, real and longer than he could remember. And in that moment, Marcus Steele realized something that terrified him more than any failed deal or corporate crisis ever had. He was falling in love with Sophia Chen, and he had absolutely no idea what to do about it. Sophia spent the next week in a state of constant uncertainty. 3 job offers sat on her tiny kitchen table in her studio apartment in Queens. Whitmore & Associates, Morrison & Klein, Steele Capital Management. Each one represented a different path, a different future, a different version of who she could become. She picked up the Steele Capital offer letter for the 10th time that morning. $200,000, general counsel, her own office. Working with Marcus every day. Working with Marcus, that was the complication, wasn't it? Because somewhere between catching the fraud and holding his hand in that coffee shop, something had shifted. She'd started looking forward to seeing him, started thinking about him when she should be thinking about contract law, started noticing the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, the way he listened when she talked, the way he defended her without hesitation. That was dangerous. That was how people got hurt. Her phone rang. James Morrison. Sophia, have you thought about my offer? I'm still considering all my options, James. Let me sweeten the deal. Dinner tonight. Per se, 8 p.m. We can discuss the specifics of the partnership track. I want you back at Morrison & Klein, Sophia. We need someone with your integrity. She hesitated. Per se was one of the most expensive restaurants in New York. The kind of place where a meal cost more than she used to make in a week of cleaning. All right. 8 p.m. Excellent. I'll send a car. After she hung up, Sophia stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She owned exactly 2 outfits suitable for a place like Per se, both from her old life before everything fell apart. Both reminders of who she used to be. She chose the simple black dress, elegant but understated. The version of herself that didn't draw attention, didn't make waves, didn't get hurt. At 7:45, a town car arrived. The driver held the door open for her like she was someone important, like she mattered. It felt strange after 3 years of being invisible. Per se occupied a pristine space overlooking Columbus Circle, floor-to-ceiling windows, impeccable service, the kind of quiet elegance that only money could buy. James was already seated, wearing a tailored suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Sophia, he stood and kissed her cheek. You look wonderful. Thank you for dinner, James. This is very generous. Nonsense, I should have done this years ago. He gestured for her to sit. I want to apologize, officially, for what happened at Morrison & Klein. I was in London running our international division. I didn't know about Carlyle's corruption or what he did to you. When I came back and learned the truth, you disappeared. I tried to find you, but you were gone. I had reasons to disappear. I'm sure you did. But Sophia, you were one of the brightest associates we ever had. Carlyle destroyed your career to protect his own corruption. That was wrong. And I want to make it right. The sommelier arrived with wine. James ordered a bottle that cost $800 without even glancing at the price. Sophia tried not to think about how many hours of cleaning that represented. Tell me about the steel deal, James said after they'd ordered. How did you catch the arbitration fraud? I read carefully. The clause was split across 3 sections to obscure the connection. But you saw it. That's extraordinary. Most senior partners would have missed that. He leaned forward. That's exactly the kind of mind Morrison & Klein needs. We've been losing ground to younger, more aggressive firms. We need fresh thinking. Your thinking. You're offering me $250,000 in partner track. That's very aggressive for someone who was fired 3 years ago. I'm offering it because you're worth it, because you have integrity that's impossible to find in this industry. Because I believe you'll be a senior partner within 5 years. Sophia took a sip of her wine. It was excellent. Everything here was excellent. The food, the service, the opportunity James was offering. Can I ask you something honestly? She said. Of course. Why now? Why not 3 years ago when I needed help? When I was blacklisted and couldn't find work anywhere? James had the grace to look uncomfortable. I didn't know where you were. I tried calling, but your number was disconnected. I went to your old address, but you'd moved. I was cleaning offices, James. I was in the phone book. If you'd really wanted to find me, you could have. You're right. I should have tried harder. I was building the London office, dealing with Brexit complications, making excuses. I'm sorry, Sophia. I failed you when you needed support. I'm trying to fix that now. The apology sounded genuine. James had always been decent as far as corporate lawyers went. Not corrupt like Carlyle, not cruel, just ambitious and focused on his own career. What would I be working on? She asked. Specifically. High-level M&A, the complex deals that require someone who can see what others miss. We'd start you on a few key cases, prove your value to the partnership, fast-track your advancement. And Carlyle? What happened to him? Retired last year with full honors. We couldn't touch him without admitting the firm had covered up his misconduct. Politics, Sophia. I know it's not fair. But you want me to come back to the firm that protected him and destroyed me. I want you to come back to a firm under new management that values integrity, I've cleaned house. 3 senior partners who enabled Carlyle are gone. We have new ethics policies, new oversight. It's not the same firm you left. Their food arrived. Sophia barely tasted it. She was thinking about Marcus, about the way he'd believed her story without question, about how he'd offered her a position without worrying about politics or what other firms thought, about how he'd held her hand and told her she reminded him of his father. "James, can I ask you about Marcus Steele?" James's expression shifted slightly. "What about him? You know him?" "We've done business over the years. He's smart, ruthless when necessary, successful." "Why?" "He's offered me the general counsel position at Steele Capital." "I know. That's why I wanted to meet tonight." "Sophia, Marcus Steele is brilliant, but he's also complicated. His father was a janitor who died young. Marcus spent his whole life proving he was better than that. He's driven by something dark, something unresolved. You're saying I shouldn't work for him. I'm saying be careful. Marcus has a reputation for being cold, for using people and discarding them when they're no longer useful. I don't want to see you get hurt again." Sophia thought about that, about Marcus's vulnerability when he'd talked about his father, about the way he'd fired Victoria to protect her, about how he'd looked at her in that coffee shop like she was the most important person in the world. "I think you're wrong about him," she said quietly. James studied her. "You have feelings for him." "I didn't say that." "You didn't have to. I can see it in your eyes." He sighed. "Sophia, be smart about this. Office romances rarely end well, especially when there's a power imbalance. He's a millionaire CEO. You're rebuilding your career. If things go wrong, then I'll deal with it. I've dealt with worse." "Have you?" James leaned back. "Because from where I'm sitting, you're about to make the same mistake you made with Carlyle, getting emotionally involved with someone who has power over your career. That never ends well." The comparison stung because there was truth in it. She had trusted Carlyle, had believed he'd protect her when she reported the fraud, and he'd destroyed her instead. Was she doing the same thing with Marcus? Trusting someone powerful because he said the right things? Because he made her feel seen? "I need to think about this," Sophia said. "Of course, take your time. The offer stands." James signaled for the check. "But Sophia, whatever you decide, do it with your head, not your heart. Your heart has been wrong before." The ride home was quiet. Sophia stared out the window at the glittering Manhattan skyline, thinking about choices and consequences and the difference between trust and foolishness. When she got back to her apartment, there was a note taped to her door. Marcus's handwriting. "Working late on the Tech Vista final documents. If you want to help, I'm in the office. If not, I understand. M." It was past 11 p.m. She should go inside, go to bed, think about James's offer rationally in the morning. Instead, she changed into jeans and a sweater and took the subway back to Manhattan. The Steele Capitol building was mostly dark, but Marcus's office showed light. Sophia used her consultant keycard to access the elevator, rode up to the 35th floor. Marcus looked up in surprise when she knocked on his doorframe. He'd taken off his jacket and tie, rolled up his sleeves. Papers covered every surface of his desk. "Sophia, I didn't think you'd come." "I was in the neighborhood," he smiled. "At midnight?" "I had dinner with James Morrison. He made me an offer I'd be crazy to refuse." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. "And are you refusing it?" "I don't know yet. That's why I'm here." She walked into his office and sat in the chair across from his desk. "Tell me the truth, Marcus. Why do you want me at Steele Capital? Is it because I'm good? Or because you feel guilty about what happened to me?" "Both." The honesty surprised her. Marcus set down his pen and met her eyes. You're the best legal mind I've ever encountered. You see things others miss. You have integrity that's impossible to find. I want you here because you'll make this company better. Make me better. And the guilt? You were destroyed for doing the right thing. I've spent my career doing whatever it took to succeed, ethics be damned. When I look at you, I see the person I wish I'd been, the person I want to become. So yes, there's guilt. Guilt that the world punished you for being good while rewarding people like me for being ruthless. Sophia was quiet for a moment. James warned me about you. Said you're cold, that you use people and discard them. He's not wrong. I have been. But you've changed that. Changed me. People don't change, Marcus. Don't they? 3 months ago, I mocked a cleaning lady for not being able to read a contract. Now I'm sitting here begging that same woman to help me run my company. That's change. Or that's you realizing I'm useful. Marcus stood up and walked around his desk. Sat on the edge of it close to her. You want brutal honesty? Fine, yes, you're useful. You're brilliant and capable and you save me millions of dollars, but that's not why I want you here. Then why? Because when I'm with you, I remember why I started this company, because you challenge me, because you make me want to be better than I am. Because for the first time in years, I feel something other than ambition driving me. What do you feel? He looked at her for a long moment. Sophia, I can't offer you what James Morrison can. I can't give you the prestige of Morrison & Klein. I can't promise you'll make partner at one of the most respected firms in New York. But I can promise you this. I will never lie to you. I will never ask you to compromise your ethics, and I will fight for you the way you fought for what was right, even when everyone else walked away. Sophia felt her chest tighten. That's not fair. What's not fair? Saying things like that, making me feel... She stopped. Feel what? Like this is more than just a job offer. Marcus reached out and took her hand. What if it is? Then we're both idiots. Office romances never work, especially with power imbalances. If things go wrong, then we'll deal with it. Together. You sound very confident for someone who's never done this before. Done what? This. Whatever this is. Romance. Vulnerability. Honesty. Marcus laughed, but there was nervousness in it. I'm terrified, if that helps. I've negotiated billion-dollar deals without breaking a sweat. But sitting here with you, I feel like I'm 16 again, asking someone to prom and praying they'll say yes. Despite everything, Sophia smiled. Did you go to prom? No. I was working 3 jobs to help my mom pay rent. Prom was a luxury I couldn't afford. Me neither. I was studying for the SATs. Figured college was more important than a dance. We were very serious teenagers. We were very poor teenagers. There's a difference. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands still joined. Then Sophia's phone rang. She pulled it out and saw James Morrison's name. I should take this, she said. Of course. She stepped into the hallway. James? Sophia, I'm sorry to call so late, but there's been a development. I spoke with our managing partners after dinner. They're prepared to offer you $300,000 starting salary and a guaranteed partnership vote within 3 years. This is a firm commitment in writing. You'd be one of the youngest partners in Morrison & Klein history. $300,000. Guaranteed partnership. Everything she'd ever wanted handed to her on a silver platter. That's very generous, James. It's what you're worth. But the offer expires Monday. The partners want an answer. They need to know if you're in or out. I understand. I'll have an answer for you by Monday. She hung up and stood in the hallway, staring at her phone. $300,000, security, prestige, the career she'd lost handed back to her. But no Marcus. She walked back into his office. He looked up hopefully. James just sweetened his offer. 300,000 guaranteed partnership in 3 years. Marcus's face fell. That's extraordinary. It is. You'd be crazy to turn it down. I would. Sophia, I can't match that, not even close. I was going to offer you 220 as general counsel. If you stay at Steel Capital, you're leaving $100,000 on the table every year. I know. Then why are you still standing here? She looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd mocked her 3 months ago. Who'd believed her when no one else did. Who'd fired his general counsel to make room for her. Who'd held her hand and told her about his father and made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she could trust again. Because money isn't everything. I learned that the hard way watching my father die. I spent $200,000 on treatments that bought him 18 months. Best money I ever spent, even though it destroyed me financially. Because those 18 months meant everything. She stepped closer to his desk. James is offering me money and prestige. You're offering me something I can't put a price on. A chance to rebuild my life with someone who sees me, really sees me. Not Sophia Chen, the promising associate, or Sophia Chen, the failure, but just Sophia. The woman who reads contracts and cleans floors and deserves a second chance. Sophia. I'm not finished. You asked me what I feel. I feel terrified. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of something that could either save me or destroy me. But I also feel alive for the first time in 3 years. And that's worth more than $300,000. Marcus stood up. Are you saying? I'm saying I accept your offer. $220,000 general counsel starting Monday. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Marcus pulled her into a hug. It was unprofessional, inappropriate, and exactly what she needed. She let herself lean into him, let herself be held, let herself feel safe for just a moment. When they pulled apart, they were both smiling. You're going to regret this, she said. Probably. But I'm very good at making terrible decisions that somehow work out. Clearly. You hired a cleaning lady as your lawyer. Best decision I ever made. They stood there in his office, surrounded by contracts and papers and the beginning of something neither of them fully understood. And for the first time in 3 years, Sophia let herself hope. The next Monday, Sophia arrived at Steel Capital Management at 8 a.m. She wore her best suit, carried a briefcase she'd pulled from storage, and walked through the lobby as an executive, not a cleaning lady. Everything had changed, and nothing had changed. The building was the same. The conference rooms she'd cleaned were the same. But she was different. She belonged here now. Marcus met her at her new office. Corner office, 20th floor, stunning view of Manhattan. Her name was already on the door. Sophia Chen, General Counsel. Welcome to Steel Capital, he said. Officially. Thank you for everything. Thank me by making sure I don't sign any more fraudulent contracts. She laughed. I think I can handle that. The first few days were a whirlwind, meeting the legal team, reviewing active cases, establishing protocols. The junior attorneys were respectful but curious. The senior attorneys were cautious. Everyone wondered about the cleaning lady who'd become general counsel overnight. By Wednesday, the whispers had started. Sophia heard them in the break room, in the hallways, in the careful silences when she entered a room. I heard she and Marcus are involved. She went from janitor to GC in 3 months. That's not normal. What does she actually know? Has anyone verified her credentials? Sophia ignored them. She had work to do. Real work. The kind of legal analysis she'd dreamed about during those long nights cleaning floors. But on Friday, everything fell apart. Sophia was in a board meeting presenting her analysis of a new acquisition target when Victoria Cross walked in. She wasn't supposed to be there. She didn't work for the company anymore. but she had a folder in her hand and fury in her eyes. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Victoria said, her voice dripping with false courtesy. "But the board needs to see something before they make any decisions about Ms. Chen's continued employment." Marcus stood up. "Victoria, you need to leave. You don't work here anymore." "I'm here as a concerned citizen, about to save this board from a massive liability." She opened the folder and pulled out documents, spread them across the conference table. "These are wire transfers," Victoria said. "From Vermilion Capital, a direct competitor to Steel Capital, to an account in Sophia Chen's name. $50,000 received 2 weeks ago, just before she identified the so-called fraud in the Tech Vista deal." The room went silent. Board members picked up the documents, examining them. "That's impossible," Sophia said. "I've never received money from Vermilion Capital." "The wire transfers say otherwise, date, account number, everything." Marcus grabbed the documents, studied them. His face went pale. "These are fake," he said. "They have to be. Or Ms. Chen was planted here by our competitors to sabotage the Tech Vista deal," Victoria said. "Think about it. A cleaning lady who suddenly knows corporate law, who catches a fraud that 6 experienced attorneys missed. It was too convenient. She was paid to find that clause, to make Steel Capital look incompetent, to drive up the purchase price so Vermilion could swoop in with a better offer." "That's insane," Sophia said. "Is it? Or is it exactly what a corporate spy would say?" Victoria turned to the board. "I've done my research. Sophia Chen was fired from Morrison & Klein for professional misconduct involving client confidentiality. She disappeared for 3 years. Now she shows up here, makes herself indispensable, and receives $50,000 from our biggest competitor." One of the board members spoke up. "Mr. Steele, these are serious allegations. We need to investigate before—" "There's nothing to investigate," Marcus said. "These documents are fabricated." "Then let's verify the account numbers. Let's call Vermilion Capital and ask if they paid Ms. Chen. If she's innocent, she has nothing to hide." Sophia felt the room closing in. This was Morrison & Klein all over again. False accusations, doctored evidence. Her reputation destroyed while powerful people protected themselves. "I want these documents analyzed," Marcus said. "Full forensic review, find out where they came from." "That will take days," another board member said. "In the meantime, I move that we suspend Ms. Chen's access to confidential materials pending investigation." "Seconded," said another. "All in favor?" 6 hands went up. Only Marcus abstained. "The motion carries," the board chair said. "Ms. Chen, please collect your personal belongings. Security will escort you from the building." "This is absurd," Marcus said. "She saved this company." "She allegedly saved this company, or she sabotaged a deal for our competitors. Either way, we can't risk having her access sensitive information until we know the truth." Sophia stood up slowly. She looked at Marcus, saw the anger and frustration and helplessness in his eyes. He was trying to save her, but he couldn't. Not this time. "It's all right," she said quietly, "and I'll go." "Sophia." "Don't. Not here. Not now." 2 security guards appeared at the door. Professional, polite, but firm. Sophia walked between them out of the boardroom, down the hallway, past her office with her name on the door. Employees stopped working to watch. The whispers grew louder. She could hear them. I knew something was off about her. From janitor to corporate spy, what a story. I heard she seduced Marcus to get access. Sophia kept her head up, kept walking, refused to let them see her break. At her office, she grabbed her briefcase, her personal items. The security guards watched her every move, making sure she didn't take any company documents. The walk to the elevator was the longest of her life. longer than when she'd been escorted out of Morrison and Klein. Because this time, it hurt more. This time she'd believed things would be different. The elevator doors closed. Sophia rode down alone, her reflection staring back at her in the polished steel. She looked professional, composed, together. Inside, she was breaking into 1,000 pieces. When she reached the lobby, she saw reporters outside. Someone had tipped them off. Of course someone had. Victoria had planned this perfectly. Sophia pushed through them, ignoring questions shouted at her. "Ms. Chen, did you take money from Vermilion Capital? Are you a corporate spy? What's your relationship with Marcus Steele?" She made it to the subway, descended into the tunnels, and finally let herself break. Standing on the platform waiting for the train, Sophia Chen let the tears fall. She'd been here before. Destroyed by false accusations, career in ruins. Hope shattered, but this time was worse, because this time she'd let herself care, let herself trust, let herself believe Marcus would protect her. And he'd tried. But in the end, powerful people protected the company, not the disposable lawyer who used to clean floors. Her phone rang. Marcus. She didn't answer. It rang again. James Morrison. She let it go to voicemail. By the time she got home, there were 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. From Marcus, from James, from numbers she didn't recognize. She turned off her phone and sat on her apartment floor, surrounded by the life she'd tried to rebuild. The consultant agreement, now worthless. The business cards from people who'd never return her calls now. The diploma from Columbia that had brought her nothing but pain. 3 years ago, she'd lost everything reporting corruption. She'd rebuilt from nothing, worked her way back up, let herself hope. And now she was right back where she started. Destroyed. Unemployed. A cautionary tale about what happened to people who thought integrity mattered. Sophia pulled out her laptop and searched her own name. The articles were already up. Steele Capital consultant accused of corporate espionage. Former cleaning lady allegedly paid by competitor to sabotage deal. Marcus Steele's judgment questioned after hiring suspicious consultant. Her photo, her name, her past at Morrison and Klein dug up and sensationalized. She was done. Completely done. Not just with Steele Capital or Morrison and Klein or corporate law. Done with hope. Done with trust. Done with believing that doing the right thing mattered. She'd clean floors for the rest of her life before she let another powerful person use and destroy her. Her doorbell rang. She ignored it. It rang again. Then knocking. Then Marcus's voice. "Sophia, please, open the door, let me explain." She didn't move. "I know you're in there. I can see the light under the door, please. Just 5 minutes." Sophia stood up and walked to the door, opened it. Marcus stood in the hallway, still in his suit, looking frantic and desperate. "It's fake," he said immediately. "The wire transfers, Victoria fabricated them. My IT team traced the documents to her workstation. She created them yesterday, probably planned this whole thing." "I know they're fake, Marcus. I didn't take any money from Vermilion." "I know. I never doubted you for a second. But the board did. Your investors did. Everyone did. Just like Morrison and Klein, just like 3 years ago. And you couldn't stop it. I tried." "You tried, but it wasn't enough. It's never enough." She leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. "Do you know what the worst part is? I knew this would happen. James warned me, my gut warned me, but I ignored it because you made me feel safe. You made me believe things could be different. They are different. I'm going to fix this. I'm going to prove Victoria fabricated everything. I'm going to..." "And then what, Marcus? I come back to Steele Capital? Everyone knows I'm the woman who was accused of espionage. Every deal I touch will be questioned. Every decision will be second-guessed. My credibility is gone. Then we'll rebuild it. Together. Sophia laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't want to rebuild, Marcus. I'm tired. I'm tired of fighting, tired of proving myself, tired of losing everything every time I try to do the right thing. Sophia, please. I need you to leave. I love you. The words hung in the air between them. Sophia stared at him, shocked. What? I love you. I've been falling in love with you since you read that first contract, since you challenged me and pushed back and refused to let me dismiss you. And I know this is terrible timing. I know you have every reason not to believe me. But I can't let you think I don't care. I can't let you walk away believing you're alone in this. Sophia felt tears running down her face. You can't love me, Marcus. You barely know me. I know you're the bravest person I've ever met. I know you sacrificed everything for integrity. I know you deserve better than what life has given you. And I know I'm standing here making a complete fool of myself because the thought of losing you terrifies me more than any business failure ever could. Marcus, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. Whatever you decide, wherever you go, you're not alone. You have someone who believes in you, who sees you, who loves you. He turned to leave. Sophia watched him walk down the hallway toward the elevator, away from her. Marcus, wait. He stopped, turned. I can't do this right now. I can't be with you, can't work for you, can't be anywhere near Steel Capital. Not until I figure out who I am without a career defining me, without a man trying to save me, just me, Sophia Chen. Not the lawyer, not the cleaning lady, not the victim, just me. He nodded slowly. I understand. But Marcus, thank you for believing me, for trying, for being the first person in 3 years who saw me as something more than a mistake to be hidden or a problem to be solved. You were never a problem, Sophia. You were always the solution. I was just too blind to see it at first. The elevator doors opened. Marcus stepped inside. Their eyes met one last time before the doors closed. Sophia went back into her apartment and locked the door, turned off all the lights, sat on the floor in the darkness, and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. The pain, the anger, the grief, the loss of something that could have been beautiful if the world had been kinder. Tomorrow she'd figure out her next move. Tomorrow she'd decide whether to accept James's offer or disappear again or try something completely different. But tonight she let herself break, because sometimes breaking was the only way to eventually rebuild. And somewhere across the city, Marcus Steele sat in his apartment staring at his phone, willing her to call, knowing she wouldn't. He'd lost her, the best thing that had ever happened to him. Lost her because he hadn't been strong enough, fast enough, powerful enough to protect her. But he wasn't giving up, not on her, not on them. Tomorrow he'd start fixing this. He'd clear her name, prove Victoria's fraud, give Sophia back everything she'd lost. And then, maybe, just maybe, she'd give him a second chance. Because Marcus Steele had learned something important from Sophia Chen. Some things were worth fighting for even when the odds were impossible. Especially when the odds were impossible. 3 weeks passed, 21 days of silence. No calls, no texts, no contact between Marcus Steele and Sophia Chen. But that didn't mean Marcus was idle. On day 1, he had his IT team conduct a full forensic analysis of Victoria's fabricated wire transfers. They traced the documents to her personal workstation, found the timestamps, even recovered deleted files showing earlier drafts where she'd adjusted the amounts and dates. On day 3, he confronted Victoria with the evidence. She denied everything at first, then crumbled when he showed her the digital trail. She'd created the documents in a desperate attempt to destroy Sophia and protect her own reputation. Marcus had his attorneys draft termination papers and handed them to her personally. "You're not just fired," he told her. I'm reporting you to the State Bar Association for fabricating evidence. You'll be lucky if you're not disbarred." Victoria's face went white. "You can't prove I meant to." "I can prove everything. Timestamps, metadata, recovered files. You committed fraud, Victoria. And unlike when Sophia reported corruption, this time the powerful person is on the right side." On day 7, Marcus held a press conference. Full media presence. He stood behind a podium with blown-up images of Victoria's fabricated documents displayed on screens. 3 weeks ago, false accusations were made against Sophia Chen, my general counsel, he began. Today, I'm here to state unequivocally that those accusations were fabricated by a former employee seeking revenge. Ms. Chen is brilliant, ethical, and saved Steel Capital from a $40 million fraud. The only fraud in this situation was the one committed against her. He showed the evidence, explained the digital forensics, named Victoria Cross and her motives. Any media outlet that printed the false story will be receiving formal requests for retractions with equal prominence to the original articles. Ms. Chen's reputation has been severely damaged by these lies, and I'm committed to repairing that damage. A reporter called out, "Mr. Steele, what's your relationship with Ms. Chen? Are you romantically involved?" Marcus paused. He could deny it. Keep things professional, protect the company's image. "Yes," he said instead. "I love her. I've been in love with her since she read her first contract and showed me that intelligence and integrity can coexist. But that's not why I hired her. I hired her because she's the best legal mind I've ever encountered. The fact that I fell in love with her is just proof that I'm not as smart as I thought I was, because I should have seen it coming from the start." The room erupted with questions. Marcus held up a hand. "One more thing. I'm establishing the Sophia Chen Fellowship at Columbia Law School. $2 million, endowed, full scholarship for 1 student per year from an underprivileged background. Because talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. And because the woman I love taught me that where you start doesn't determine where you finish." He walked off the stage without taking more questions. On day 10, Marcus worked with James Morrison to pressure Morrison and Klein into clearing Sophia's name from the original incident with Carlyle. It took threats of public exposure and lawsuit, but eventually the firm agreed to remove all references to professional misconduct from her record and issue a formal statement that her termination had been based on internal politics rather than any actual wrongdoing. On day 14, Marcus did something that would have been unthinkable 3 months earlier. He bought a janitor's uniform, the exact kind his father used to wear, and he found out where Sophia was working. She'd gone back to cleaning. Not at Steel Capital, she'd never go back there, but at a medical office building in Brooklyn. Night shift, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Marcus showed up at midnight wearing the uniform, carrying a mop and bucket he'd bought from a janitorial supply store. Sophia was on the 3rd floor cleaning examining rooms. She looked exhausted. Beautiful, but exhausted. When she turned and saw him standing there in a janitor's uniform, she froze. "What are you doing?" she asked. "What does it look like? I'm working." "Marcus, this is insane." "Is it?" He started mopping the hallway, clearly having no idea what he was doing. "You told me that dignity has nothing to do with the work you do. That my father had just as much value as a janitor as I do as a CEO. So I'm here to prove I understand that. You're here to make a grand gesture. I'm here because I couldn't stay away another day. I'm here because I love you, and I'm willing to clean floors next to you until you believe that." He paused, leaning on the mop. "Also, I need to tell you something important. Something I should have told you weeks ago. Marcus, my father's name was Robert Steele. He cleaned offices in this city for 20 years. Worked himself to death trying to provide for us. I spent my entire adult life ashamed of that. Ashamed that I came from a janitor. I built Steel Capital to prove I was better than him. Richer. More successful. More important. Marcus's voice cracked. But I was wrong. My father was better than I'll ever be. Because he did honest work with dignity. He never cut corners or compromised his integrity to get ahead. He was everything I should have been and wasn't. He set down the mop and walked toward her. You reminded me of him, Sophia, that first night when you challenged me. When you refused to be dismissed or made small. You had the same dignity he had, the same pride in your work no matter what that work was. And it terrified me because you made me face what I'd been running from my whole life. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, you don't have to do this. Yes, I do. Because you deserve someone who sees you, all of you. Not just the brilliant lawyer or the woman who saved my company, but the whole person. The woman who sacrificed everything for integrity. Who cleaned my floors while knowing more about corporate law than my entire legal team. Who gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. I'm still figuring out who I am, Sophia said quietly. I lost my identity when I lost my career. And then I almost lost it again trying to get it back. I need to know who Sophia Chen is without a job title defining her. Then I'll wait while you figure that out. I'll mop every floor in Brooklyn if that's what it takes. Despite everything, Sophia laughed. You're terrible at mopping. You're supposed to start at the far corner and work backwards so you don't step in the wet spots. Show me. She walked over and took the mop from him. Like this. Small strokes. Overlap slightly. Don't use too much water or it'll take forever to dry. Marcus watched her, memorizing every detail. The way she moved with efficiency and purpose. The way she made even cleaning look graceful. I cleared your name, he said quietly. Victoria's been reported to the Bar Association. The media printed retractions. Morrison and Klein removed the misconduct from your record. James helped. He said to tell you the offer still stands if you want it. You worked with James? I worked with anyone who could help you. I didn't care about pride or competition. I just wanted to fix what I let happen. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. Then she handed him back the mop. You're forgiven for not being in that board meeting. You tried to protect me, I know you did. But I failed. You got back up and kept fighting. That's what matters. She smiled slightly. Also, you're wearing a janitor uniform in the middle of the night. That's either the grandest gesture I've ever seen or you've completely lost your mind. Probably both. They stood in the hallway, surrounded by the smell of disinfectant and floor wax. And for the first time in weeks, Sophia felt something other than pain. She felt hope, fragile, tentative hope. I'm not ready to come back to Steel Capital, she said. Not yet, maybe not ever. I understand. But I'm also tired of running, tired of letting other people's corruption define my life. I want to practice law again, Marcus, real law, the kind that helps people instead of just making rich people richer. What if you could do both? What do you mean? Come back as general counsel, but also I'll fund a legal aid clinic, pro bono work for people who've been wrongfully terminated, blacklisted, destroyed by corruption like you were. You can run it. Help people who are where you were 3 years ago. Sophia stared at him. You're serious? Completely. I'll fund it personally, not through the company. This is me, Marcus Steele, former janitor's son, trying to do something that actually matters. That would cost millions. I have millions, and they're meaningless if I can't use them to fix the world that broke you. Sophia felt tears running down her face again. But this time, they weren't tears of pain. They were tears of something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Joy. Can I think about it? She asked. Take all the time you need. The offer doesn't expire. He started to leave, then turned back. Sophia? One more thing. I know I said I love you at the worst possible time. I know you asked me to leave, but I need you to know something. I'm not going anywhere. However long it takes for you to trust again, to heal, to figure out who you are. I'll be here, waiting, because you're worth waiting for. He left, taking his mop and bucket with him. Sophia stood alone in the hallway, watching him go, feeling like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. 6 months later, Sophia Chen walked into the Steel Capitol building wearing a suit that actually fit, carrying a briefcase that wasn't held together with duct tape, and using her own key card instead of borrowing one. She'd spent the past 6 months working, real work. The legal aid clinic Marcus had funded was up and running, and she spent 3 days a week there helping people who'd been wrongfully terminated or blacklisted. The other 2 days she worked as Steel Capitol's general counsel, reviewing contracts and managing the legal team. It was exactly the balance she needed. Corporate law paid the bills. Legal aid work fed her soul. And Marcus? They'd been taking it slow, very slow. Dinners once a week, coffee twice a week, slowly rebuilding trust, slowly learning each other without the chaos of the past hanging over them. Today was different, though. Marcus had asked her to review one more contract and meet him in the conference room where they'd first met. Sophia walked in and stopped. The room had been transformed, candles everywhere, flowers on every surface. And on the wall, in a custom frame, was the original Tech Vista contract with her notes and highlights preserved behind glass. A plaque beneath it read, "The contract that changed everything." Marcus stood at the head of the table wearing a suit but looking nervous in a way she'd never seen before. "What is all this?" she asked. "A contract review. You said you charge $500 an hour now, right?" "Marcus, what's going on?" He picked up a document from the table and handed it to her. "I need your expert legal opinion on this agreement. It's non-standard. I want to make sure I understand all the terms before I sign." Sophia opened the document. It was titled the Steele-Chen Partnership Agreement. She started reading. "This agreement, entered into on this day and effective in perpetuity, establishes the following terms and conditions between Party 1, Marcus Alexander Steele, and Party 2, Sophia Marie Chen. Section 1. Core. Obligations 1.1. Party 1 agrees to love Party 2 unconditionally without reservation for the duration of his natural life and beyond. 1.2. Party 1 agrees to challenge Party 2 intellectually, support her professionally, and respect her autonomy in all matters. 1.3. Party 1 agrees to honor her integrity above all else, to never ask her to compromise her ethics, and to protect her against any person or entity that seeks to harm her. 1.4. Party 1 agrees to make coffee exactly as she likes it, even when the specifications are complicated and require multiple adjustments. 1.5. Party 1 agrees to support her legal aid work, fund her fellowship programs, and never question whether helping others is a profitable use of her time. Section 2. Mutual Covenants 2.1. Both parties agree to communicate honestly, argue productively, and never go to bed angry unless one of them is being particularly stubborn, in which case a maximum cooling-off period of 4 hours shall apply. 2.2. Both parties agree to build a life together that values integrity over profit, people over numbers, and love over everything else. Section 3. Consideration 3.1. In consideration of the above, Party 2 agrees to accept Party 1's heart, his devotion, his eternal gratitude for the day she walked into his conference room and changed his life. Section 4. Special Provisions 4.1. This agreement includes but is not limited to 1 engagement ring described in Appendix A, ethically sourced, 2.5 carats emerald cut because Party 1 remembers Party 2 mentioning once that she loved that style. 4.2 This agreement supersedes all previous agreements, arrangements, and misunderstandings between the parties. 4.3 This agreement is binding in all 50 states, all U.S. territories, and anywhere else the parties may travel. Section 5. Termination Clause 5.1 This agreement cannot be terminated by either party except by mutual consent, which Party 1 has no intention of ever giving because he's completely, impossibly, eternally in love with Party 2. Sophia looked up, tears streaming down her face. Marcus had knelt beside her chair while she was reading. "So, counselor," he said, his voice shaking slightly, "do you find the terms acceptable?" "Section 4.1 is unclear," she managed to say through tears and laughter. "What happens if Party 2 accepts?" "Then Party 1 gets to spend the rest of his life with the woman who taught him that some things are worth more than money, that integrity matters, that where you start doesn't determine where you finish." He pulled out a small velvet box. "Then he gets to marry his best friend, his partner, the woman who changed everything by refusing to stay invisible." He opened the box. The ring was perfect, simple, elegant, exactly what she would have chosen. "Sophia Chen, will you marry me? Will you be my partner in business and in life? Will you let me spend every day trying to deserve you?" Sophia was crying so hard she could barely speak. "That's a lot of questions. Very inefficient contract drafting. Sorry, I'm not as good at this as you are. Let me simplify. Sophia, will you marry me?" "Yes, yes, absolutely yes, 1,000 times yes." Marcus slipped the ring on her finger and it fit perfectly. Then he stood and pulled her into his arms and they kissed like they'd been waiting 6 months to do, which they had. When they finally pulled apart, both were laughing and crying. "You wrote me a marriage contract," Sophia said. "I figured you'd appreciate the legal thoroughness." "I do, though Section 1.4 is oddly specific. You have very particular coffee requirements. I wanted to make my obligations clear." She laughed and kissed him again. "I love you, you ridiculous man. I love you too, even when you correct my legal terminology in meetings. Especially when I correct your legal terminology." They stood there, surrounded by candles and flowers and the contract that had started everything, and both knew they'd found something rare. Something worth fighting for. Something worth waiting for. "Should we celebrate?" Marcus asked. "Champagne? Dinner at Per Se?" "Actually, I have a better idea. Let's go clean floors." He laughed. "What? I'm serious. Let's go to the medical building where you showed up in that janitor uniform. Let's mop floors together. I want to remember where we came from, what we learned, how we got here." "You want to clean floors to celebrate our engagement?" "I want to spend time with the man I love doing honest work, remembering that our value isn't in our job titles or our bank accounts. It's in who we are together." Marcus looked at her, this extraordinary woman who'd changed his entire life by refusing to be dismissed, and fell in love with her all over again. "Let me get my mop." 4 months later, Columbia Law School Chapel was filled with friends, colleagues, and everyone who'd witnessed Marcus and Sophia's unlikely journey. Sophia wore a simple white dress, elegant but unpretentious. Marcus wore his best suit. James Morrison stood as one of the groomsmen, genuinely happy for both of them. Several of Sophia's legal aid clients attended, crying through the ceremony. The officiant was Sophia's old mentor from Columbia Law, Professor Williams, who'd never stopped believing in her. "We're gathered today," she began, "to celebrate a love story that started with an insult and ended with one of the most beautiful partnerships I've ever witnessed." Scattered laughter through the chapel. When it came time for vows, Marcus went first. "Sophia, you walked into my life when I needed you most, even though I was too arrogant to know it. You taught me that integrity matters more than profit. That dignity has nothing to do with job titles. That the most important decisions we make aren't about money. They're about choosing to do what's right even when it costs us everything. His voice broke slightly. My father was a janitor. He died working 3 jobs. For years I was ashamed of that, ashamed of where I came from. But you showed me that my father was a better man than I'd ever been. That honest work done with dignity is worth more than all my wealth combined. He took her hands. I promised to honor his memory by being the man he raised me to be. I promise to support your work, your dreams, your mission to help people who've been where you were. And I promise to love you every day, in a janitor's uniform or a CEO's suit, because you taught me that who we are has nothing to do with what we do for a living. Sophia was crying. So was half the chapel. Then it was her turn. Marcus, 3 months ago you offered me a job reviewing a contract. But what you really offered me was a second chance, a chance to reclaim my career, to rebuild my life, to remember that I'm worth more than what happened to me. She smiled through her tears. You saw me when I was invisible. You believed me when everyone else thought I was lying. You fought for me when I couldn't fight for myself, and most importantly, you showed me that it's possible to trust again, to love again, to hope again. I promise to challenge you when you're wrong, to support you when you're right, to be your partner in every sense of the word, and I promise that no matter how successful we become, we'll never forget what we learned cleaning floors together. That love isn't about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It's about showing up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. They exchanged rings. Professor Williams pronounced them married. Marcus kissed his wife while everyone applauded. At the reception, James Morrison gave the toast. I've known Sophia Chen since she was a law student, he said. And I've known Marcus Steele as a competitor and colleague for years. I never imagined them together. But watching them, I realized they're perfect for each other. Because they both believe that success means nothing if you have to compromise your integrity to achieve it. He raised his glass. To Marcus and Sophia, may you always read the fine print. May you always fight for what's right. And may you always remember that the best contracts are written in love, not legalese. Everyone drank. Then Sophia stood up. I have an announcement, she said. Marcus and I have decided to expand the Sophia Chen Fellowship. Starting next year, we're endowing 5 full scholarships instead of 1. Because talent is everywhere, opportunity isn't. And we're committed to changing that. Applause filled the room. 2 years later, Sophia sat in her office at the Legal Aid Clinic, a beautiful space Marcus had built for her in downtown Manhattan, fully funded and staffed with 8 attorneys who worked pro bono cases full-time. On her wall hung several items. Her Columbia Law diploma, finally displayed with pride. The framed contract from that first night. A photo of her and Marcus in janitor uniforms grinning at the camera. And a plaque that read, "Where you start doesn't determine where you finish." Her assistant knocked. "Sophia, your 2 p.m. is here, Victoria Cross." Sophia looked up, surprised. She hadn't seen Victoria since the woman had been fired and reported to the Bar Association. "Send her in." Victoria entered, looking nothing like the confident general counsel Sophia remembered. She looked tired, humbled, carrying a worn briefcase. "Thank you for seeing me," Victoria said. "I'm curious why you're here." Victoria sat down. "I was disbarred. As you probably know, I can't practice law anymore. I'm working as a paralegal now, making a fraction of what I used to make, and I'm here because I need help." "You fabricated evidence against me. You tried to destroy my career. Why would I help you?" "Because you're a better person than I am. Because you help people who've been wronged by the system, and I was wronged. Not by you, by my own arrogance and fear. I destroyed my own career by trying to destroy yours." Victoria's voice cracked. I'm not asking you to get my license back. I don't deserve that. But there's a woman, Clara Mendez, who's been blacklisted from every hospital in the state because she reported a surgeon for malpractice. She's a brilliant nurse. She did the right thing. And now she can't work. Her story is your story. I thought maybe you could help her. Sophia studied Victoria for a long moment. Then she opened her laptop. Tell me about Clara Mendez. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank Marcus. He taught me that people can change, that forgiveness is possible, that sometimes the people who hurt us the most are just scared and broken themselves. She pulled up a legal form. I'll take Clara's case, pro bono. And Victoria, if you want to help, I could use an experienced paralegal who understands what it's like to lose everything and try to rebuild. Victoria stared at her. You're offering me a job? I'm offering you a chance to do good work, to help people, to be part of something that matters. The pay is terrible compared to what you made, but the work is meaningful. I'll take it. Thank you, Sophia, for giving me a second chance. After Victoria left, Sophia sat alone in her office thinking about second chances. About how her life had changed since that night Marcus had thrown a contract at her. She'd gone from invisible to essential, from cleaning floors to running a legal clinic that had helped 127 people clear their names and rebuild their careers, from broken to whole. Her phone rang. Marcus. Hey, beautiful, how's your day? Interesting, Victoria Cross just came by. Victoria, what did she want? Redemption and a job. I hired her as a paralegal. Silence. Then Marcus laughed. You're incredible, you know that? I learned from the best, a certain CEO who believed in second chances. That CEO is completely in love with his wife, by the way. The feeling is mutual. Dinner tonight? That Italian place you love? Perfect, I'll meet you there at 7. It's a date. Love you. Love you too. Sophia hung up and looked around her office, at the diplomas and photos and the evidence of a life rebuilt, at the stack of case files representing people who needed help, at the future she'd built from the ashes of her past. She thought about the night Marcus had challenged her to read that contract, how she'd almost walked away, how close she'd come to staying invisible, but she hadn't. She'd sat down, she'd read, she'd challenged him back, and that decision had changed everything. In the steel Capitol lobby on the wall near reception, a plaque had been installed 6 months ago. Visitors often stopped to read it. In honor of Sophia Chen Steele, who taught us that intelligence can be found anywhere, that integrity matters more than profit, and that the most important contracts aren't written on paper, they're written in trust, respect, and love. Where you start doesn't determine where you finish. What matters is having the courage to begin again. And in a small frame next to the plaque was a photo. Marcus in his CEO suit standing next to Sophia in her old cleaning uniform, both grinning, both proud, both exactly where they belonged. Together. What did you think of Marcus and Sophia's story? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories. And check out more emotional stories by clicking right here on the final screen.